We're talking about this idea that who you hang around with will really determine how your life turns out, what you manifest. Um, Here are some questions. Do the people you're hanging out with, do they strive to keep you part of a smaller thinking group? Or are they excited when you up level? Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cognomovement system. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello, hello in UK Health Radio Land. I'm Liz Larson, and I'm here with my friend,
Bill McKenna.
Hey, Bill McKenna. And we're the team that hosts the New Life Perspectives radio show, and also the duo that created the incredible Cognomovement system. Gosh, it's been so much fun lately, hasn't it, Bill? So many amazing things happen every day.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's exciting for us personally and our own successes with it. But it's equally exciting to see all of our practitioners and the end users actually making their dreams come true from the mundane, new boyfriend, girlfriend that fits the mold perfectly, to that house, car, whatever be the case, that
well, or the physical changes that happen for a person. I think of it like this, Bill, like people's dreams are actually available now, no matter what they are, by using our system. And what's amazing, it's not the same old system. Like, it'll be different tomorrow than it is today. It keeps expanding. We keep expanding and making new discoveries that actually help people claim that life of their dreams faster and faster and faster, no matter what it is, across the board. We see it. It's so fascinating. Even just to where a person comes, we had somebody yesterday who came, a client, and we happen to be working with them together, which is rare. If you get us both, you must be special. Showed up and he was just in a terrible state. He just felt bad, just was not feeling good. And not only did he leave feeling good, his body was moving so much better and his energy was different. And when I asked him about the state he was in when he came in, it was always a little bit funny because he kind of didn't quite remember it. He was, you could see the confusion on his face as I asked, when you came in, you were really feeling strongly about this or that, this thing that was going to take him a lot of time to feel better about. You could tell he didn't know what I was talking about, which happens. The body just forgets the old paradigm and moves forward into the present, which to me is like just the most fascinating thing.
It really is. It's kind of good and bad. I mean, the good news is they're really in the present moment. And they completely have forgot about the bad situation. I mean, literally, it's not a situation anymore because they can't even focus. They hardly remember it. Yeah. I mean, you have to actually stimulate them to remember. You said this was the biggest issue in the world, and they were, oh yeah. Oh.
This reminds me of something I was actually talking to Leah about, who's our business manager, but also my daughter. And I've been listening to Walter Russell every so often. About once a year, I go back and start to listen to his books. And there's a book I love about him. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He is an old thought leader, but he's one of these people who accomplished and was very not only successful, but considered a master in many things. In his late 50s, he just decided one day to be a sculptor because there needed to be a bust of the current president who he was friends with, just casually friends with the presidents and the ex-presidents. And he'd been a painter, but never had sculpted in his life, and just decided that's what he would do. And he did. I think the first sculpture was a bust of the current president of the day. And then he went on to do sculptures for the president's children. But for him, it wasn't, oh, I got to go out and learn. He rarely took a class, rarely read books. He just he described it as sort of listening to the universe and letting the universe express itself through him. And at 69, he entered an ice skating competition and won. Of course, he didn't take the medal. It was against people who were 30 and younger. He didn't accept the medal. He just did it because he could, to prove the point that if he decided, that's what would happen. So as I was talking to Lee about this, and sometimes I get obsessed with a thing in the moment, so amazing. She said, wow, that is really, what did she say? I got to look it up. Like next level neutrality.
Level mastery.
Master level neutrality is what she said. So that's really sort of the topic of today. We're also thinking about, I was listening to another guy on YouTube who was talking about being in monk mode. And what he meant by monk mode is this focus on a real singular focus on what you're trying to accomplish. And it's how he became very, very successful at a super young age. And he was talking about being mentored, that you need a mentor. And he was saying that when he was a kid, he didn't have any money for mentors. He didn't know anybody. He was 16. He went to the library and read as much as he could, and he felt mentored by the books that he read. And then he was talking about that if you want to accomplish something, start to hang out with people who are already doing it. And you very, very quickly are able to do it, like you're up to speed. It's almost like these are the things that we do, and so it becomes easy. And you were talking about that there's a little bit of science behind that about mirror neurons, right?
Gosh, this, what you're seeing right now, everybody's listening to pay close attention on this. There's two major things if you take away from this. And the first one is that all of us, we have something called a mirror neuron. Now, this mirror neuron in our brain actually picks up what the other person is doing, and we begin to have the exact same experience inside of us. When we see someone offering compassion, have you ever watched, there's a couple of those videos that you watch on YouTube and all of a sudden you're a little bit welled up. You're like, oh my God, it makes you want to cry, or the anger, right? Maybe it's, some sort of brutality or something, and you can feel that anger. This is a mirror neuron. It's a real biological, neurological fact. But there is something else at play. And this is one of the laws of physics. And everything, the first thing I'll start with here is everything vibrates. Everything. Every cell, even in the table or the chair you're sitting on, it's vibrating very slowly, but the cells are vibrating. You're hearing my voice through a vibration, a frequency. Everything that happens is a vibration, including our feelings. Now, our thoughts are actually broadcasted. It is an actual measurable frequency. We know this from the scientific testing through a magnetoencephalography. This is a device that is in many universities around the globe. Instead of having an EEG where the sensors are attached to you in your head and measuring your brain waves, you can actually measure them outside of your head. The sensors are out there in space, and they pick up your thought and they can actually map it to your brain. But interestingly enough, this amazing law of physics, it's called constructive interference. Constructive interference basically says that when we get two waves, say, my amplitude, the wavelength is this big coming out of me. Let's say it's a hand length. It comes up one side of my hand and goes down. I'm just using this as a measurement. Let's say it's the size of my hand is the wave that is generated by my thoughts. Now, if Liz Larson comes along and she has the same thoughts, let's say we've got a project and we're excited about it. We're going to do this. And we're like, yes, yes, yes. Well, what happens actually is this constructive interference. The wave actually builds. The wave becomes double. So, or even greater. So it leads us to a bunch of expanded awareness. And it can starts with who we hang out with. What Liz was talking about, who we hang out with. Notice that, criminals tend to associate with criminals. And their vibration, this thought wave, is very chaotic. And it builds that chaotic vibration at a low frequency. But there's other people, ever notice that when you're watching these billionaires on, on TV, and you're like, oh yeah, Elon's like, oh yeah, whoever, heads of state, oh yeah, he's talking with these other billionaires, that's his circle, and that's how they vibrate, and they work together.
Yeah.
This is everywhere, right, Liz?
Yeah, that's what, Walter Russell was talking about, is that whenever he got involved in something, he got involved at the highest level. It was just the assumption that he was also equal to them. He would put himself right in the mix. He actually became an architect and a builder of some of the most important buildings in New York and in Florida, but never studied being an architect. Like, how the heck do you do that? And he was very immediately renowned and accepted as that. He just jumped right in at the highest level. So there's some other less scientific ways of talking about this. One is basically just rapport. You can't really hang out with anybody and be in a relationship that you don't have rapport with. So what is rapport? It's a certain level of agreements. We make agreements about our reality. That's it. Think about your closest friends. When you hang out together, you have your inside jokes. You all make about the same amount of money in general. You like the same sort of books and movies and TV and all that kind of stuff. You might even dress the same or start to look the same in some way. If people were to see you as a group, they would see a certain kind of cohesion, a rapport. So like Bill was talking about the mirror neurons, we start to mirror each other. Now, have you ever been a part of a group or known someone as a part of your group who left it? Everybody might say, oh, well, they thought they were better than us. Or, oh, they went down a rabbit hole of like maybe criminal activity or moral activity that we don't agree with. The outliers tend to leave that group and join another. Then you also look at who is the ringleader of the group. The ringleader of the group is the person with the strongest field. So these are electromagnetic, hormonal, and chemical signals that emanate from our bodies. And you'll see this in nature. There is always a pack leader amongst the pride of lions, amongst the wolves, right? Amongst the primates, there's always a leader. How does that happen? Well, a lot of times they're physically the strongest, but they emanate the signal, the strongest signal, and everybody starts to vibrate into that signal. Now, I know that this is one of those things that probably people are going to want to punch me in the mouth for, because you don't want to believe that you're so much a part of the animal kingdom that you follow a leader who has the strongest signal in your group, but you do. If you look, there's somebody who makes decides what movie we're going to. There's somebody who decides the trend of the clothing. You can see this a lot in high school. So this can be really, really detrimental to your life and your health, or incredibly supportive, or somewhere in the middle. But this topic today is about actually choosing it. And there's some ways that you can choose that you probably have never even considered. So let's take our first break. And when we come back, we'll talk about some of the ways that to choose who you're going to hang out with to achieve a specific goal in your life that you may not have thought of. So right now, let's hear from the UK Health Radio Network. UK Health, take it away. Okay, we're back. We are talking about, mirror neurons. We're talking about how there is someone in your group who is sending the strongest signal, and that you are maybe inadvertently following it, which could be good or bad. So you want to think about your social circles. Think about work and the characters at work, and who you most relate to and who you don't. If you're a part of a church group, think about who you relate to and who you don't. Like, who in your group? I went to church way more than any human should have in my lifetime. And there were always like the elites. And there were always those who kind of weren't, like maybe they were the people who didn't show up all the time, or maybe weren't following the rules the best, right? And then there was the group who really followed the rules, and they were, in our group, they were the most theocratic, right? They were out of reach for some of us, and then there was those in the middle. Think about your closest friend group currently. Like, who do you hang out with? Who do you talk to most of the time? And then expand it to maybe your family groups. Who do you hang out with? So there's been this statistic for the longest time that the 5 people you hang out with the most, your finances will be about equal to those. But what about happiness? What about joyful? What about people who are really expanding their consciousness? Have you ever considered choosing people that have that kind of an emotional quotient in their life? People say they want to be happy, they want to be more joyful. But here's the question: could you choose people who are already doing that? And could you be influenced by their field, by their neurons, by their neural patterns? What do you think, Bill McKenna?
Well, I think if you were to look at your own personal life experience, we all go through periods of time when we're up and when we're down. And if you look at who was I hanging around with at that time, who were my peers, and that sort of thing, what you might find is that this is very much plays out. I always say the litmus test of the truth is your life experience. What does my life experience tell me? It's actually really quite simple. And when you start to break it down, which I broke it down a little bit here, is there's some real practical components to this. And The first one starts with your peers. They influence you. Like if, let's say we're into like, maybe your focus is around health. These are people who run, let's say, marathons or something like that, or let's say they're people who are into some sort of athletic performance. They probably are also into, keeping their diet clean. So when you do go out to dinner, you're say, hey, where do you want to go? McDonald's? Well, maybe we're going to make a different choice. So the other aspect, let's say, is if we're, for example, interested in finance and growing our net worth, your networking organization, who are you associated with in your networking organization? They're probably, as Liz said a little bit earlier, they're probably, if you're, a CEO, CFO, the C-suite, they tend to kind of hang out together. They go to lunch together. They do those things. And what do CEOs and CFOs and all those talk about? They talk about things that, like, oh, well, I'm going to buy my second home. Oh, this vacation spot. I had the opportunity. When I first ran into this in an extraordinary way, I remember I was at a club, and this is a pretty high-end place. I just remember I was overhearing the conversation on the table next to me, and I was like, the conversation was around private jets. Well, I don't know about that, that citation, the Cessna Citation 3. I don't really like it. The porta potty is, it's a porta potty back there and it's got a screen. No. What you want is you want the G4. You got your own lavatory. It's locked up. It's all great. What? I like the seats in that one. Yeah, but have you tried the Lear 10? My gosh, last trip, I was in Europe in no time. I'll tell you what, totally worth it. It's like, what? What am I hearing here? I mean, I'm certainly, this is a different vibration. What is the conversation that's going on around you? Start listening to the conversation. Are people talking about other people? And especially in a negative way, in a judgmental way. Is that the conversation? Is that uplifting? Because of the mirror neuron effect, if I start listening to somebody, having these conversations, all of a sudden I start feeling judgmental. That's why I say the news, as far as our circle, it might be good to like maybe give a break to the news for a minute.
Yeah. You can tell the consciousness level, not to be judgmental in any way, shape, or form, of a group by their conversation and what they're talking about. And in general, I'm not talking about if there's a major problem going on in your life that you shouldn't talk about that problem. But in general, you have a group just chatting and they're talking about ideas. Those people are on their way to something. They're going to do something with their life. They're going to change. People who are talking about current events in the news in general, like as their regular conversation, they're going to stay where they are. If you've got people who are just constantly trash talking, they're probably going to sink further down into whatever problem there is, So it's about people, things, or ideas is how your consciousness level expresses, right? But exactly. I have to say, this is no easy thing. It can be the worst thing somebody anticipates doing is changing their social group, outgrowing the people that they love and that they care about. It can also be done horrifically. You guys are terrible. I no longer want to hang out with you. I'm going to go to an upper echelon group. That's awful. So it doesn't have to be that way at all. It really doesn't. In considering what you want next, you might like to follow my shiny things advice. I've shared with you guys so many times that when I want to manifest, I just look at the very next thing. Oh, shiny thing right there. I have big goals, and they're fun, and I play with them, and I massage them a bit, but it's like the very next thing. What do I want very next? So if you were to think about this in your work situation, what do you want next? Do you want to have a fun conversation next? Would you like to talk about gardening? Would you like to talk about an idea you heard that you would love someone's opinion on? Simply choose the next conversation with someone who that conversation would be really fun, right? So maybe the idea is something you've heard in science, and there's somebody in your group who particularly likes science. Seek them out. Hey, Billy Bob, I heard this thing, this science thing, and I wondered what you thought about it. Here it is. And see how fun that conversation is for you. See if it's enjoyable for you to share that idea. It's the same at church. Pick somebody out who maybe isn't your regular conversation and talk with them about something you know they're interested in. Maybe it's jewelry making. Hey, Sister Martha, I'm thinking about starting to wrap cabochons. And I'm wondering, should I buy 12 gauge silver, or is it better to buy a filled, right? So these are just little things that you can try on. I know many who are watching or interested in this are interested in consciousness, manifesting, creating a better life. Who do you know that loves that conversation? So actually, I have been one of those people that people choose for that particular conversation. I get these texts or phone calls, and they'll be like, hey, Liz, would you have time to have coffee with me? Every time I have coffee with you, I walk away with about 49 ideas, and I'm really needing some idea injection. I just somehow think better when I'm with you, right? Why? Because my highest value is ideas. If you're with me, I can't help it. Oh, what about this? And have you considered that? And what if you thought about it this way, right? So when people want that I'm who they seek out. And that's who I seek out when I want that. I have a group of friends and people who have different ideas about different things. And when I want that next really joyful conversation, I choose the one that I know we will engage in this very fun and uplifting conversation. The same thing is true with business. If you want to upgrade your business, find someone who has that level of business. See if you can befriend them. One way, there's organizations for this, in fact, like BNI for business is a great one. It's people who are probably at a similar level, up to much higher level business than you are, and you get to know them. Like you really get to know them, and you get to know how they run their business, and you get to ask questions. And every week you're meeting with people who have that focus. So it can be done in these little doses. Now, BNI is interesting because it's not people that are probably part of your inner circle, and it's approachable. It's acceptable to hang out with those people once a week. And then they do these one-on-ones where you get together and you actually know someone. So you don't actually have to leave your church, leave your work, leave your group, your friend group, to have this other little group on the side. So, that's another way to do it. It's bite-sized pieces. It's how I always talk about manifesting in bite-sized pieces. This is one of those ways to start manifesting the kind of people that will help you up level. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to share something about Leah was my guru this morning about Upleveling. So let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network, and we'll be right back. We're talking about this idea that who you hang around with will really determine how your life turns out, what you manifest. Here are some questions. Do the people you're hanging out with, do they strive to keep you part of a smaller thinking group? Or are they excited when you up level?
I have a comment on that one. In certain cultures, and this is a known thing, in certain cultures, they talk about certain cultures, they compare it to frogs in a container.
In a pot,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and that in certain cultures, the one frog climbs on the other frog's back, and the next frog climbs on their back, and they end up all climbing out of the container. But in other cultures, what they do is as soon as one of the frogs is about to get out, the other ones pull them back down again. So you ask yourself this: what kind of culture do you have in your life, your family? Is it, hey, you're not down, you gotta come back to my level? And is this true for you? Or are they, hey, get up on my back. Here, I'll get you up there. Yeah. All right. Now you grab my hand. Now let's get out of here. Are they, what is it for you? And if you're in a culture where they're doing that, congratulations. That is very resourceful. But it's everything. It's in all aspects of life. It doesn't just one. It is, are they providing emotional support? Emotional support. Are you being torn down? Are you being called names or your faults being pointed out without giving a definitive resolution to it? You want to look at, are your opinions crossed over and like, yeah, you're stupid. Yeah, no, not valid. Or are they,
how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? Don't just how about that?
Yeah, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. It's dumb. It's silly. Well, this is one of the things that we hear the most. I do a lot. People are so desperate because they just can't find the group of people that they can have this conversation with them. So many people, when they get in the consciousness game, get divorced because they feel like their partner just can't, talk about those things or just isn't on the same page with them, which I can tell you is not necessary. You do not have to get divorced. But one thing that you can do, and this is what I was about to share about Upleveling. Leah was my guru this morning, and she was talking about how when she plays video games, I don't play video games, so I didn't understand this theory, but when she plays video games, she said you play it to up level. And it doesn't matter if you lose because you're going to play it again and you're going to get to that point of up leveling, right? That's the point of the game. You learn all the things or you get all the points or you figure it out and then you up level, right?
Yeah.
Just even a little bit, one level. But the whole point is you continually progress and up level. And I thought, man, that is brilliant and for life, and it's brilliant for manifesting. If you're just upgrading, up leveling just a little bit in hanging out with just one extra person who has a great energy and always lifts you up, that's an upgrade. That's an up level. If you end up with, maybe you're on an online group where everybody just absolutely cheers and supports and celebrates a win. Sometimes it's easier with people that you don't know. If you are maybe reading books that are cheerleaders for you, there's a lot of books that you can read that in the end, you're like, oh my God, there's so much to do there that I can't even get out of my own way. It's depressing. I hated those books. But I would love the books where it was a theme and there was one idea that you can take and up level just a little bit with this new understanding. And it was joyful and energetic and exciting. If you start to look for these little up levels, these little upgrades, here's what eventually happens. Naturally, the people in your life who can't match that at all, they sort of just fade away. They just don't become a match. But eventually you become the person in the group with the strongest signal. And what you discover is that more and more people in your life start to be willing to have these conversations. More and more people in your life, whether they're new people or the old ones who've been around, they are affected by this excitement, this joy, this forward movement. You become, well, for lack of a better word, the alpha in this energetic soup. And every time you make one of these little upgrades, what you manifest, what you're capable of manifesting, what you're a match for, is at that new level. And pretty much soon, before you know it, you're there talking about the jet, if that's what you choose. Or you're there having that heady, intellectual, juicy conversation for 5 hours, right? Whatever it is you choose, those micro up levels will be the thing that changes your life. And then they sort of start to become exponential, which is what you see happen, right, Bill?
Yeah, it is. They're bringing that network, that new contact. It's just one, just so you could have the conversations. They're going to bring knowledge and resources that you hadn't considered yet. They will bring alternate perspectives to you so that you'll be able to say, oh my gosh, I haven't considered that. Oh, and by the way, there's this book, or you know what, I'm going to introduce you to my friend over here who's blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you find yourself on the proverbial top of Mount Everest.
Yeah. By
positioning. It is positioning. And you know, I think I told this story in the past, I'm not sure, but I had a friend that he conquered the last face of Everest. It was the last face that had not been conquered yet. I think it was the west face. And back in the 1980s, I'm aging myself here, but my friend, he did it. But you know what? He wasn't a climber that was of the caliber. He had climbed, Denali, and he had, done a bunch of endurance events, but he only volunteered to be on the team like a pack mule to support the real climbers. And the real climbers got sick and this and that and, got hurt. Next thing you know, he's the guy. He did it. He's in National Geographic. He had no business. But he started talking about it. He started living it. He started going out. He started doing things like volunteering. Believe me, they're having a much different conversation than most people have.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just one thing. I use this guy as an example, but it wasn't just one thing. He sailed the Transpac and went to Harvard Business School. He you name it. He'd run the Western States 100. He had done everything, and become an investment banker and, made gobbles of money and, but those things, when you went and had lunch with him, you would walk away elated because it was all about concepts and ideas. There's never, if there's any discussion about, something happening with an individual, it would be in humor, but it wouldn't be an attack. there's no time for these other things. And the gentleman was resourced to the cows come home at an epic level. So it's really it's very interesting how this concept is so true in real life.
You made me think of something, Bill. There's a lot of times when we have to talk about a problem, a person in our lives, possibly that there is a problem with, maybe someone sick, but there's even a way to do that too. I tend to have conversations that are idea-based because that's the way my brain thinks, right? And if someone comes to me with a sickness, and I know you do this exact same thing, or a major problem, we go right into strategy. There obviously is a strategy and a way out of that. How do we move them to the next level? I think it's how Cognomovement has been expanded so quickly. It's because we're always looking for the how. Oh, obviously there's a way into that problem and there's a way out. So let's look for the way out. Rapidly looking for the change. And that's why I think the core work that we do at the Cognomovement Essentials is just that. It helps a person who cannot think of a way out because they feel so stuck in their physical body. There's a sensation of, I just can't get past this. I can't feel greater than I'm thinking, right? So you use the tool to change the way your body feels, put it to neutral, that master level neutrality. And then your body and brain will naturally start to seek the next upgrade, the next level, right? Our client yesterday, that's what he did. By the end of the conversation, when he came in, his outlook was pretty desolate. What he was planning on doing next was like wallowing around in the trauma and the drama and the problem, that dark night of the soul energy. When he left, he was talking about the things he was going to do next. Positive, forward moving. So even when there's a problem, and we all have them, if you're talking about it in a way that creates strategy to up level, you're still in that highly creative space. You're going to solve a problem faster and differently than someone else. And sometimes you do need that tool to be able to change the way you feel about it, especially if it's someone close to you or your own body that's sick, right? You do have to change your energy a little bit. I was listening again, Walter Russell. That's been my little diversion the last few days. And there's a book called The Secret of Light. It's a complicated book to listen to, but he was really talking about how everything is voltage. That's what we say in Cognomovement too. When you clear a negative, heavy feeling in the body that creates a negative, heavy thought, your voltage goes up. He was talking about how sleep is not unconsciousness. There is never a moment of true unconscious that your voltage is changed. The voltage in your body changes, and that's what creates the appearance of sleep or unconscious, right? And when we change how our body is reacting to itself, how the mind and body are talking to each other, we know that we change the voltage. And when that voltage or light changes, we now have access to be a match to greater and greater light, greater and greater energy. So even there, it proves out this idea that just the slightest up level, upgrade in feeling, consciousness, happiness, ideas can start to make you a match to bigger and better things, the things that you only dreamed that you could manifest.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things that you had mentioned earlier is that our circle will tend to change once you begin down this path where you become one of the people that is the frog, get on my back and we'll both get out of here. Once you become that, and what happens is there's a very interesting phenomenon. Your energy, remember we said everything was vibrating, and the amplitude of your wave is much higher. And those frogs that were, let's say, pulling each other down has a very low frequency. As it turns out, you don't have to say a word to all of those other pull you down into the bucket people. They will actually end up forgetting about you. And it's not because they have a judgment about it. They literally, your frequency has changed, and they no longer resonate with you, so they don't kind of pick up on your energy. It's much like a radar. Imagine you're now, if you were a ship out at sea, your radar sees everything on the surface. But if you happen to be 500 feet above the surface, the boat, its radar would never pick it up because you're 500 feet up. The radar doesn't ping. And that's exactly what happens. And this phenomenon is a very, very real phenomenon. The thing I want to point out is that you won't have a bad feeling, and they won't have a bad feeling as well. You kind of just go off. I like to call it going off the radar, because you're just at a different level now.
It is so true. And you almost don't notice it happening.
Yeah, it's natural as breathing.
You just don't notice it happening. I'll tell you guys an insider secret. That's exactly how I met Bill McKenna. I think, Bill, you know this story. But I had made a concerted effort to want to have these great conversations. I love a great conversation about ideas. And the people that I had been around were people who I'd been friends with most of my life. My family tended to be, we talked about the same thing every time. I mean, one of my friends, I would literally know about every bowel movement that everyone in her office ever had. And every person she ever knew was clinically depressed. Like, oh my God, I couldn't take it anymore. So I literally chose, like our friend Walter Russell, I'm choosing now to meet some people for some great conversations. Now, I didn't intend to change my entire life, except for that I did. I just wanted some great side conversations. And the first thing that happened was I came across, I think, a Facebook page of where a person was teaching a class about how to write a book proposal. When you have a book, how to propose it to an agent or a publishing company. And I had very purposely, set my mind to great conversations. Well, someone in that group happened to live just 45 minutes from me. So, of course, we met online, and we decided to create for ourselves a little support and accountability with each other. So we would have lunch or dinner or just on the phone, and we would have these great conversations. And through that, this friend and I created a little healer circle. And we would have these great conversations and with a greater group of people. And we would bring in speakers and people, and we would speak and present ourselves. At that time, I was working as a master NLP practitioner. And one day, it just occurred to me, I saw Bill on Gaia with his very first interview about the how to heal people with water. It's beautiful. If you have never seen it, Gaia.com, and a simple method for healing, I think it's called. And I thought, hey, I like what he's saying. It was simple. It was clear. Why don't I see if he wants to come talk to our group? And so I did. And that's how we met. It's the strangest things. Bill lives in San Diego. I live in Southern Oregon. We had no reason on the planet to know each other. But if I hadn't made the decision to have better quality conversations, I would have never met Bill. All right, you
Isn't
guys.
that interesting?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
I thought I told you that story before. Anyway, we have come to the end of this conversation for today. Hopefully, it was one of those higher level, higher consciousness conversations. If you want to be able to upgrade quickly, cognomovement.com/essentials. If you want to change cravings, cognocraving.com. And if you want to hear more about us, join us on the YouTube channel, Cogno Movement, or anywhere that you like to listen to podcasts, #wellbeing podcast. You can find this and all of the podcasts on the UK Health Radio Network. Until next week, be safe and be well. Thanks so much, Anna. Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.